Oh, yeah. Here we are again.
Another episode of Moped Outlaws
With Mark and Greg.
on the back roads of America.
Vroom shroomin' to our doom.
Yes. Oh man, I've got hit by some of course, 15 minutes before this is going to start. All of a sudden, I felt headachy and my stomach's all jacked up. And yeah, shouldn't have shot that heroin before we started.
Who'd you kiss that had corona?
Exactly. I don't
What
know.
about food? Have you had any food?
Yeah, maybe it was the food poisoning.
I hope not.
I hope not either.
We promise we won't take you into the bathroom with Greg.
Good thing it's an audio podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh,
how are you doing?
pretty good.
Right on.
It's hot in here.
It's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes. I'm feeling hot. I'm gonna take my clothes off.
Yeah. Dad bod.
What is it, like 100 degrees up there?
Oh, no, it's not even hot. Like, I shouldn't even have said it.
Is that some white problems going on up there? It's too hot.
Ooh, you're going to go there?
My air conditioning broke.
My fan doesn't go on high anymore.
Got up to 87 degrees. The tap water was lukewarm.
I don't want to sweep the pool.
Why don't you hire someone?
This is not endearing. We think it's funny, but it's just pathetic.
It is funny. Pathetic is funny.
It must be. That's why they're laughing at me.
Oh, dun-dun-dun. Yeah, I bought one of those screens for when I get excited.
Oh, well, I don't see it. Why? Why? What good is it if it's not being used yet?
Exactly. Fuck you. That's some more white privilege. I buy things and I put it on a shelf and never use it.
I've got mine.
Yeah, but it's not hooked up.
What's this then? Huh? Huh? Is that
I
a
give
pop
up.
screen?
What is that? I give
That's a
up.
pop screen. That's the microphone I'm using with a pop screen on it.
Nice. Nice. It's a nice mic setup.
You can have one too for $297 from Amazon.com. It comes with a camera and a ring light.
You know, Bezos is up in outer space right now, looking down at all his workers, making sure they're getting those packages packed up and ready in under a minute.
And he just took the radiation thing that went through the capsule that he's going to die of Alzheimer's in 5 years from.
Or become a Fantastic Four.
Right? He's going to split into four things, and then there'll be Amazon 1, 2, and 3.
No, that's how the Fantastic Four became the Fantastic Four. They got,
Bombarded by radiation in the space capsule.
yeah, it was some
Yeah,
sort of ray. I forget the ray.
a gamma ray.
Gamma ray. What the fuck is a gamma ray?
I don't know. It's almost as good as a spider bite, though.
Fuck yeah. Well, that was a radioactive spider.
Back when we
Radioactive.
thought that pollution could make us superheroes. See, this is it. Pollution and bad pollution consciousness is all the fault of comic books. We've been led to believe that pollution is just another form of exalting ourselves, and it's not.
Yeah, mutations are good. Mutations are good for you.
We are Devo.
Let's not think about the fact that mutations also are cancer, okay? Let's think about the mighty Hulk. Green is beautiful, okay? Okay.
I just saw something that was awesome on TikTok.
What was it?
You know those big wheat threshers, those like giant wheat
Yeah,
threshers that
yeah.
are like,
It was
I don't
just
know.
mowing through like the city, just mowing people down.
No,
Ah!
it was like, I think it was like 30 feet across the part that turns and harvest stuff, and it was like the big tractor. It
Yeah.
was this big open field, like all you can see for miles, right? It was all weed bud, and they were just harvesting it at this like at this giant level because that's where we're at. Like
Really.
the
What?
world is finally ready to be on weed all the time, and so this giant thresher was just like harvesting the colas, the 3 foot colas from this field, like literally, like it must have been a quarter of a mile square plus
Wow.
beyond what I could see.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Like there, I remember growing up, I was talking with one of my friends who went through some real serious cancer, still kind of going through it, but he's in a much better place than he was last year. Anyway, THC, a 5-5 combo THC CDM helps
CBD.
him. CBD helps him. And we were talking because we were growing up in high school, his dad thought marijuana was the devil. Like truly, truly, like I remember him not treating my friend well and then turning to me with just fire, like, do you smoke that? And I was just like, fuck no, sir. No, just out of my gourd, stoned. But and so we were thinking like that was a prominent train of thought when we were growing up, and now it's medicinal. Like you say, now there's big harvest threshers. It's become capitalist. You know what? Also, I
One day
heard.
we're going to wake up and realize that Satan is our ultimate doctor.
I hope not. I hope I never wake up to that madness. Okay, I'm going to cure you now with this cattle prod in your ass. Say cheese. Uh, Another friend that is a mutual friend of ours, I was talking with, and one of the things these giant multi million huge corporate marijuana people are trying to do is show that they've been in the industry for a long time, like they used to be outlaws, they're legit. The fact that they're making hundreds of millions of dollars off you, don't look at that. We're real, man, we're with you. Don't look at the corporate,
Are
how
you
some.
saying Marlboro brand weed? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean like these marijuana industry folks who have built companies very quickly to that level. They're
Oh,
making
oh,
hundreds of millions of dollars, but they want to brand themselves as OGs. And, we were out in the fields in the 70s. We were,
yeah. The real Emerald Triangle farmers just were too stoned to get it together on that level. They topped out at about like, I don't know, a couple acres, and then it was like that was all they could do.
yeah, there is actually one gentleman that I'm aware of who is on that level of growing. Everyone's got problems. Like last year, one of his crops, or no, the year before, 2 years ago, one of his crops up north got hit by one of those fires and wiped him out. And so it's just there is no easy road. It may look easy. Everyone's got their fucking cross to bear.
That's right.
Speaking
I
of the
agree.
devil.
I agree. I totally agree with that idea. We all have trials, right? That's what we come here
Yep.
for.
Yep. By the way, speaking of trials, this coming Sunday, and I'm not clear about the anniversary, but it has to do with Emmett Till. Is that his name? Am I remembering his name correctly? Yeah, I think that's it. Emmett Till. It's not a good story, Mark.
Yeah. Go
And
on. You're telling it.
so, well, this story, it really resonates, and it was for those of you who don't know, and I think probably most do. It's a 14-year-old man, young teenager, young boy, really, who was accused of attacking a white woman, and he was lynched and brutally beat up and tortured, and it was just ugly. And and part of the power of the story, I think, was a choice his mom made to have an open casket because she wanted the world to see what had happened and what was possible. And the last piece is like I saw just a recent article where these college boys were standing, had posed with guns by the sign that was put up to commensurate where his body was found. And like they had shot up the sign and they're all smiling and celebrating like good old boys. And it was a recent article, and I just thought it shocks me that that train of thought is still prevalent.
Yeah. We're conditioned, or some of us are conditioned to form our identity around the divisions that are in place. And that the ego then takes
Wow.
on the personality as if the who I am, is dependent on these beliefs that I've been conditioned to hold.
On the
So,
division, like that it's dependent on the division. I think you nailed it. Like the ego gets into a place where I am best because of my separatism from the whole.
yeah, people want to define themselves as an identity based on these hallmarks, right? And so if you've got the stars and bars, or your dad has the stars and bars on his wall, then you want to find your validation in emulating that particular lineage of thinking and identity. And so you form an identity based on a need to be separate and an ego to be something, and you won't look beyond your evidence that proves what you want to believe. We all look for the evidence that reaffirms who we are. And
Yeah, I love that statement. Um, don't believe everything you think.
right.
It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And it's just so hard to go into a place of trying to be have an uplifting, humorous point of view when you name Emmett Till,
Yeah.
because of the horrendous things that are part of that experience that are still happening in way too many numbers and we don't hear about.
Yes. And I think my hat is off to the creative force that did what's the show on HBO? Oh crap. And they started off with the Ohio massacre. What was it?
You
Yeah,
mean the
that
Tulsa massacre?
Tulsa
Uh,
massacre.
yeah,
Yeah, they,
it was named after a famous science fiction writer.
yeah. What was that fucking show? It was
It
one of my
wasn't the
favorite
Heinlein
shows.
show.
The Robert Heinlein. Um, and it didn't get renewed, which is oh come on.
Well, there was the Watchmen.
Yeah, that wasn't it though. It was
No,
oh, but actually it was Tulsa was the Watchman.
what was both?
No, but the one I was thinking of was come on. Oh, I give up. But yes, we're thinking of the same show. And Emmett Till had a they like part okay, so here's my point. Duh. I really respect and admire people who take these very hard things and put them into an entertainment medium. And I find it very palpable to a degree. Like I got educated about, I didn't even know of the Tulsa massacre. You know, I knew of Emmett Till, but I didn't know a lot of the depth of the story. So
The name of the series, for those of you who are wondering, is Lovecraft.
that's it. Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
So good.
While Greg was carrying the weight of the show and continuing to talk and present ideas, I was busily being quiet and looking up shit on Google because my brain couldn't remember anything. But yeah,
Neither can mine, obviously. But it
Lovecraft
can
was
blabber.
challenging and poignant and an interesting juxtaposition of all of these different things. And I don't understand why it wasn't renewed. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Did you so you watched the whole thing?
Yeah.
One
I
of the most powerful
couldn't stop
scenes.
watching it once
Yeah,
I started.
one of the more most powerful scenes that still resonates with me is when they're in that cafe and it's painted white and he accidentally scrapes it and sees the brick behind, and all of a sudden they realize, like, because they were looking for that one place that was in the green book and they can't find it, but here's this place. And she comes running out. Is it she or he comes running out? Run! At the same time, they realize, oh, this place got burned. This is fucking powerful, man.
Yeah. Well, and that's, there's a big debate going on about critical race theory right now and whether or not we should be discussing it in classes and in history. And it's just so obvious that that's what we need. And in any free society, I put free in quotes, of course, because it's kind of a myth. Um, we should have all of that stuff be part of the discussion. And then people can make up their own minds. The idea that we have to protect children from the facts about the way this country was formed is indicative of the fragile foundation on which it is standing.
Yeah. And I think if you look at Grimm's fairy tales, like I grew up with the Waldorf train of thought for educating children. And fairy tales and Grimm's fairy tales, Anderson fairy tales play a very prominent part in a very young human's life. And they're hardcore, you know? Like the little match girl, she freezes to death. And there's just all this horror. And I believe something Walt Disney understood. Children can understand the dark side of life, the shadow of life. It's good for that to be presented in story. And
The cis hetero patriarchal capitalist system can't maintain its power over us if we understand the truth and are allowed to make the choices, because it's based on a whole bunch of lies like social Darwinism and that capitalism or free capital is actually a viable system. It's not.
well, I'd like to find out. If someone would send me a big chunk of capital, I'll let you know in a couple years.
Well, free enterprise is great. I'm all for that. But capitalism in and of itself is not a viable system.
By the way, that Buffy St. Marie video that you shared with
With Bridge,
Bridge, yeah, for her birthday,
yeah,
that set me on a Buffy tangent. Like,
she's
wow, what a
amazing.
woman! I know,
Yeah,
damn.
like she's probably the ultimate '60s icon that most people don't really understand. Like people our age probably know the name,
Yeah,
but then people that are younger of us don't really know the name. But when you find out what she did with her life
yeah,
and how she actually went out and took money and then applied it to help her population, the indigenous population. She turned down certain kinds of fame and fortune because it was all about just exploiting things. And then she went underground for 15 years and came out just blazing criticism of the system. Even her singing style is a revolutionary act.
it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And part of what she's talking about, like at 4, she's creating music and and in elementary school, teachers are saying, yeah, she says, like, I learned to keep my head down, like, oh yeah, okay, that's how music is, and then I'd go home and do my music. Uh, Yeah, she's a badass, and at 70, I think she's around 70 in that video you shared.
Yeah, you
What a
hardly notice.
yeah, powerhouse, man.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. So thank you for that.
I like to pass on what I'm gifted. Thank God
That's
for my Uncle Doug and all the various people who've educated me about music. For those of you who don't know who John Trudell is, Buffy St. Marine and John Trudell, like that's your whole month of August. Just go listen to everything they ever did and don't listen to anything else. And it'll change you forever. Right? Like, and email us your mashups of Buffy St. Marie and John Trudell. Like, go ahead, do that.
yeah. You can email us at host, the host. What are we? Hosts at mopedoutlaws.com. The host.
I'm looking it
Uh,
up because this is, of course, it just came caught across the
important.
wires. I should acknowledge you, man. You've been kicking butt on getting this stuff done. I really appreciate what you've been doing.
Thanks. It was had a good run Sunday. Took a lot of time. I think our
Yeah, the
footprint.
email for those of us who want the hosts at mopedoutlaws.com.
All right.
The hosts at mopedoutlaws.com. That's us. We'll read it. I promise.
Yep. We might even reply.
Send us a
Yes.
list of guests you'd like us to have on here too.
Send us your money. Not that I want to be overtly capitalist, but send us your money. More chocolate for the mark. And I'm going to be filling in time with white noise. No, no one wants to hear you mention on a chocolate bar, Mark. What is that? That became a big thing last year with TikTok and where they like rubbing a feather slowly. Or what is that called?
AMDR.
AMDR. Fucking people are stupid. Believe anything. Yeah, AMDR will open up the recesses of your unconsciousness along with purple turquoise and the sun moon rising in your head hole.
I had the sun moon rising in my head hole once. It hurt.
Bad. I have the sun moon rising in my head almost 24/7. Uh, like my
Yeah.
good friend Jim Morrison said, people are strange when you're a stranger.
Wow. I didn't know you knew him.
Very well. Yeah. He and I were like this. Hey, Jim, come back. Wait, where are you going? Hey, wait, Jim.
You were running towards him and on your 3-year-old legs,
Yeah,
calling his name.
but he was just driving away in his
He was trying to get to France as quickly as he could to get in that bathtub.
yeah, to get his fix. Heroin.
He played at the Mountain Theater.
Yes, he did.
The Doors played at the
Yes, they did.
Tamalpais Mountain Theater.
I think that was. Yeah, there's footage of that
Mm-hmm.
floating around.
Yep.
And I heard that they're going to do it again this summer, but it seems to have fallen off.
They're going to do it this fall. But I think we're going back to lockdown. Like, I don't think there's going to be the whole like opening. Like, there's a lot of tours that are planned for October, as if like October is going to be the moment where, okay, it's all we've tried opening up and seeing things are stable and vaccinations, but no.
Are you wearing a mask in stores?
Yeah, I'm wearing a mask in stores. I've been teaching summer camp for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. We'll, let next week, and I wear a mask every day, all day. I wear it in stores. I've heard several people who are fully vaccinated get the breakthrough. You know,
The Delta?
the Delta.
The Delta. Hey, have you got the Delta? No, man, I don't have the Delta. Yeah.
The good news is most of them aren't dying. The people that are dying are the unvaccinated, apparently. So,
Yeah.
my heart goes out to families who are unvaccinated and either whether by choice or by circumstances aren't able to get vaccinated. I'm I don't gloat. Like, even though there's things that I think are,
Intelligent.
they lack foresight, right? But I don't want to gloat over someone else's suffering. That's not who I am. That's not where I come from. Now, if I could find a way to be funnier about it, I might try that. And then you could laugh at me for my stupidity about trying that.
Gloating is for poker tables and only for the few.
Loading? Oh,
Gloating.
gloating. I'm like, where? Show me the gloating zone. Can you imagine? Like,
Gloating.
there's like parks in Manhattan that are. It's like it's painted purple, and you can gloat there.
There's images of Prince all over the place.
You know, he didn't really gloat, but he had a way about him that made people feel
He
small.
didn't need to gloat, man. He was Prince. I think. Did you ever watch? What was that girl TV series with Zoe? What's her?
Deschanel, yeah, he's
Yeah,
in that. Yeah,
yeah. Did you see that episode with
I
him?
did. He
I
makes
think they
her scrambled eggs for breakfast
Yeah, I thought they
or
captured it
pancakes.
perfectly where he wants to talk to them and then he realizes that like they're frozen and he's all, oh, okay. He like you can and they freak out. Fuck. He's like, oh, let's get okay, yeah, I forgot. Let's get through this. I'm Prince. Go ahead. Freak out.
It's interesting when you get to that level where you're so beyond all the ego stuff that's happened to you that you can actually relate to it from that sort of secondary place. And I think Jim Carrey's also done a good job of this. It's like, yeah, I'm Jim Carrey, but who's that? Like, that's just a character that is like at a deeper level. I'm beyond that. And so, I think in that show, Prince is pointing to, there's this thing called Prince that he's not actually, that's not who he actually is anymore. This construct that we have in our heads about what it is, what Prince is. For those of you who aren't watching, I made air quotes while I said that.
And he's a fucking badass.
He's kind of an asshole too. Like, the more I
Yeah.
read about it, the more, you know.
Well, he was hardcore in his 20s for sure. He was going hard. His business and he cut people. Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, and I think he admittedly, he said like I'm not going to attach to anyone because then they can disappear and then what?
He had insecurities, and he was overcompensating for certain things. And that's the sad thing about that, is that sometimes that level of greatness is the result of suffering.
But here's the thing: we're all fucking human. He was a human being. He was also funny. You talk to friends and they hang out with him, and he was a funny guy,
Yeah.
fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you could. I'm sure you would not have to look hard to find someone to say
All right,
Greg
so
Wilker is a fucking asshole. He is the devil. I've had someone tell me flat out, I was the devil.
I think there's only one person in the world that would say that about me, and I have a podcast with him.
Ah! Yes, sir. That's funny. Really, you don't think there's anyone that I could search around and they'd go, "Fucking Mark Went is a dick." Yeah, he may seem like a
Sid
nice guy.
Sid Billidge would probably say that.
Well, no, he wouldn't. All right.
Okay.
So you really, God, that's wild.
Like, I can't think of anybody.
That's all right. Good for you. That's good. I could think of two people who I'm sure if you asked them, three, one of them at the right time, one of them could say I'm really cool, and then the next day they may say I'm a fucker. That's because they
I
live with
think
you.
Healer actually, if in the right mood, could talk about some things that happened between us where I was not the person I'd like to be or like to think of myself with him. Ways where my own ego really impacted him and undermined his sense of what he admired about our friendship. And I feel it's been generous of him over the years to kind of like move through his own feelings about that. And over time it's come and gone, but there are some things, I mean, that I've done that I can talk about. I won't.
Let's hear some.
That
And now
no,
we're
because
going into the National Enquirer part of our show. All
yeah,
right,
this is
let's hear
Mark outing himself about why he's done some assholic things. But guess what? I'm not going to do it.
what? Come on, the people
Nope.
want to know.
Well, good for them. They can keep wanting. Suffice it to say, regret isn't quite the right word, but I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned from my own transgressions in the past because that helps me be the man I am today.
And again, our human thing. I think
Mhm.
that like Chris Dienstog's one of the closest relationships I have in my life. And about a year ago, we had this blowout fight, and I thought that's the end of that friendship, and I'm okay with that. It hurt. It wasn't I wasn't celebrating it, but what am I going to do? It's kind of like so we got through that, and I think that's part of the strength of our love for each other. I think it's interesting because like this podcast has been super easy to do with you. Like I can't think of a better partner, and I'm always grateful for the way we've processed together on this
Mm.
journey. And I do hear, like I hear from uh, Dre and Tony. What's his name? The guys who did Beats, Dr.
Oh
Dre
yeah, Dr. Dre and
and
I don't know who the other person is.
gosh darn it, yeah, the
You're not.
producer who did Tom Petty and what anyway.
Anyway, you
So
they had a
they're
falling out.
no, the exact opposite. Their whole business relationship was based on a handshake, just an agreement, like verbal agreement, and they never had any real.
Problems with it.
Yeah,
That's because the checks always came through.
well, they did quite well. Yes. So I have this fantasy that you and I, like 6 years from now, will be living large and just be like, yeah, it just seemed to keep working out okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm loving doing this with you too, and I actually I can think of one person I'd rather do with it. His name is Dave Chappelle.
And that's because I'd be riding his coattails. Yeah, that fucking guy. Have you heard his podcast that he's
He has a
got?
podcast.
Yeah, but it's like a pay thing. I think it's got a paywall or it's on a platform that you have to pay for or
Makes
something.
sense. He's Dave fucking Chappelle.
Chappelle. I know, right? And one of the best stories I heard about him was from Kevin Hart. And Kevin was talking about how he had this show, I think it was in Oregon. It was either Oregon or Washington. I'm not sure. Anyway, and Kevin Hart does these huge stadiums, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And you hear Dave Chappelle's in town, and he calls up Dave's like, "What the fuck's going on? I have a show tonight." And Dave's like, "Oh yeah, I just travel around, and when we run out of money, I book a show and get some more money, and And Kevin's like, "What? What the fuck?" And Dave's like, "Yeah, do you want to come tonight to the show and guest with me?" And Kevin's like, "Well, I don't know. I could just, I don't end. I would be like 11 o'clock." And Dave's like, "Oh, no worries. I'll just tell him to start later." And Kevin's like, "Who the fuck are you? Like, you just ride to your own tune where I've created this machine that I'm sort of have to
A
answer
prisoner
to."
of, right?
Right,
The
right.
Beatles,
Right, right. Oh my God, that reminds me of another great story. I just heard about Paul McCartney. It was with oh damn it. I forget the guy who was interviewing him, but he said, "Well, do you think that you write better and perform better now than you did as in your youth?" And Paul, without missing a beat, went, I was in the Beatles." Like, what the fuck are you asking? I was in the world's greatest band. I'm never gonna top that.
It was
Not with.
Rick Rubin who was interviewing him. The
Oh, look at you! You heard that interview, huh?
Oh, I watched all 6 episodes. I couldn't
Really?
stop. Oh, dude. What was interesting about it was, yeah, I wanted to hear about Paul McCartney's stories and Rick Rubin like asking him cool questions, but they set up like a whole bunch of Beatles master tracks, multi
Uh,
tracks, and they put them through an analog board, which for those of you who are into music, you understand the difference between digital and analog, I hope. But imagine the most warm, rich, tape based
No
sounds.
judgment about digital.
Digital can just glitch my ass. Okay, fuck digital. Anyway, so they're putting these songs up, some of which are like 4 tracks because that's all they had in those days. Some of
Right.
which are more, more robust. But there's like Rick Rubin is pushing like pieces that have been buried in the mix for centuries that no one's heard, and
Wow.
the insights and the tone, the way it sounds is so rich and gooey, yummy, tasty, chocolatey, delicious musical yumminess. That, to me, that was the thing. I kept hoping that they would do these things where, yeah, they turn off everything else except the harmony vocals. And now I'm listening to Paul McCartney, John Lennon doing 2-part harmony in a way I've never heard before. Or like just the weird background track from Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds with all the shit. Like
Yeah.
that, like they did 6 episodes and I could watch like another 24.
What's it on?
Hulu.
Fuck, I don't have Hulu.
Hmm. Maybe we should like get together and watch it together.
Or we could pirate it. Not that I'm advocating piracy, but everyone's doing it, so it's got to be okay. Someone said that to me today about something. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure in like 1936 that went over real well in Germany. Everyone's doing it. I don't see what the problem is."
And wasn't it my mom who said, "Well, would you jump off a bridge if Steve told you to?"
Yes, mom, I would. Okay. You raised a dummy. All right. Who's at fault? The fool or the fool who follows?
Ooh, Star Wars quotes. I don't get those out of you very much.
Because Star Wars can.
Let's try to do a whole podcast that's just Star Wars lines without saying anything else.
Oh God, that would last 30 seconds before I shot myself.
Not if Greedo shot first.
See, I don't even know that reference. Is that the guy who shot under the table at the
You thought
bar?
you said you didn't know.
Well, all of a sudden it came to me. All right. In the smoky haze of my youth, 1976. Was it the
77.
Strand? The Strand in San Francisco? Was it the
Mm-hmm.
Strand?
I don't know.
70
I wasn't
minutes.
there. You were there, not me.
I was there. I had
You
the
mean? Do you mean the
original
Coronet
poster.
in San Francisco?
The Coronet. That was it. Yep. And
Yeah.
I had one of the original posters that had the Death Star with those V looking arrowhead things flying around.
Clever are you?
And you know what I did with that poster? I have no idea.
Those old posters aren't worth all that much. I mean, some of them are, but
What about the double album soundtrack that had the poster in it?
I have no idea. I'd have to look that up. But one of the great mythos of Star Wars lore is that the merchandise is worth something. Like the
Right.
truth is, it's like, oh yeah, $45. Like,
Right. Yeah.
it cost $24.99 when he bought it.
Again, that's the imagination. Like Candy had these plates that she didn't like, but they said made in occupied Japan on them. And she
Wow,
was like,
she thought that meant
"Oh,
they were worth something.
right." And I found a Los Angeles Times article that said no, they're fucking worthless. And then I went on eBay and showed her, yeah, you could get $7 for 4 of them. I mean, it's just so wild what we ping our imaginations to.
Well, I did that the other day with a Bob Marley picture disc from the album Confrontation. Turns out no one is
Really
selling
was.
them. No one's selling them. They're
Oh
not
wow.
available. You can't buy them. So I'm like, oh, well, I should put it up for 5,000 and see what happens.
Did you do that?
Not yet. I'm kind of busy.
So you don't really, gosh, if someone offered you 5K, would you take it?
If you want to give me 5K for my Bob Marley picture disc, write to us
Write to
at the
me, fuck
hosts at
Greg.
Moped
Mark went at
Moped Outlaws.com.
Moped Outlaws. I want there's got to be a store that specializes in record appraisal.
Well, let's just say the internets didn't yield any available copies for sale.
You know how we have little things that we did in life that still pain us, bring pain.
Yes.
One that I have is I had the Beatles' greatest hits, the blue and the red album,
Mm-hmm.
and the white album that was blue, red, and white vinyl.
Ooh.
I traded them for a Led Zeppelin bootleg that was shit.
Wow. So are those things worth serious money?
I don't know. I don't. It's enough pain to know that I was stupid. I don't need to know how
Well,
stupid.
it would have been great if the Led Zeppelin album turned out to be awesome quality, right?
Well, it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
shitty quality, and it was a single album. It wasn't like and
But
the
you know what?
reason
This
it
begs the
happened.
question: is one shitty Led Zeppelin album worth three pristine Beatles album? And I think you could make an argument for that.
And say no. The answer is no.
Oh,
No,
come
Greg,
on!
you were a stupid fucking teenager. You were dumb.
Black Dog is fucking ripping.
Not on this album. It was fucking shit. It was like someone with a cassette recorder in the back of an auditorium.
Right?
It
With
was
one of those little Radio Shack cassette recorders with the shitty
exactly,
little mic.
exactly. Fucking, oh, it wouldn't have mattered. And here was the thing. I was just dead set on selling these albums, and I went to a place in Berkeley, and they said, well, you could do this much cash or this much trade, and you're looking it up, huh?
Yeah.
You fucker. Now I have to spit in your face. Can't even find them.
Yeah. Uh,
Red
Beatles
vinyl.
covered vinyl records. Here we go.
Red vinyl, greatest
Beatles
hits.
White Album. That's just the White Album. Okay, so here's the Beatles lot of 2 LPs with red vinyl and blue vinyl, but not the White Album.
What's that?
Well, the white I don't see a White Album with color.
Oh, look at 21, $150.
See?
Fuck me. I didn't need to see that.
It's not that much.
Yes. Well, it's certainly a lot more than this piece of shit. And that's only for the red album. So now another 150 for the blue album.
Right? So now you're up to 300. Wow.
Fuck.
Here's a version of it for 1550. No
Is
cover.
it is because I found the red album greatest hits, but it wasn't red vinyl. Are you sure it's red vinyl?
Yeah. It's the blue vinyl one.
For $15?
Yep. No cover.
Oh, well,
Just the
see,
disc.
suck me. Fucking stupid, Greg. I'm gonna go slap that little bitch. What a fucking numbnut.
That like when people ask you, like, if you could go back in time, what would you do?
Go back and get those albums and say no. When they tell you what they're willing to give you, walk the fuck out of the store.
All right, so here it is, the Beatles White Album, complete with
It's 8 o'clock.
vinyl, white vinyl. It's worth $1,000.
Suck me.
Yeah.
What a numbnut. And you know what that Led Zeppelin piece of shit is worth? Who fucking cares? It's
Nothing.
nothing. Exactly. Fuck. What a numbnut.
Someday people will be copying this podcast and printing it on red, white, and blue vinyl just so they can have a bootleg copy of it that they can trade for some old Led Zeppelin record.
And they'll write to me and say, look what we did for you. Oh, thank you. That just reminded me of Life for Brian. The shoe. He wants us to worship the shoe. No, the gourd. It's the gourd.
So
It's
McCartney
running.
321 is streaming online on Hulu. It's an amazing experience. If you're into the Beatles at all, I highly recommend it.
And even if you're not.
Yeah, I was enthralled. There's a
Hey,
great part.
what I learned from Rick Rubin. He doesn't know how to work a mixing board.
Well, he was doing a pretty good job of it on the show.
Oh, well, then he's lying. He's a liar. That's what
He
I
could
just
push
learned about
faders
Rick.
up. I saw
Oh,
him push faders up, but
okay.
anybody could do that. A 5-year-old can do that.
Okay.
But actually make it good EQ is a whole other thing.
Okay. Yeah, he said he just sits back and says, "Here, put more of that in. I want some more of that."
Well, he plays good ears. That seems to be the thing.
Right person. You know, he's been meditating since he was 14.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the reason it happened, he's having some issues. I forget what it was. And his mom took him to a doctor, and the doctor recommended meditation. Totally
Interesting.
foreign to his mom, like whatever, but she, followed doctor's orders if that's what the doctor thinks is best for my son. And
I
so,
see.
and it's interesting because he said it kind of comes and goes in his life, but it's around for a long period of time. And then, so it seems like he's sort of transitioned through different ways he does it. And there's been some stretches without it, but it seems to be a predominant part of his whole life since he was 14.
Mm. Well, it was for me too, but not in a practiced way. Like I started meditating when I was 7, but I didn't like do it since then every day. It wasn't like that. But the awareness of it as a potentiality.
As a practice,
Yeah.
as a way to pick up chicks.
No, no. But when in the early days of working at Mama's in Mill Valley, when it was still on the other side of that building,
Right.
and I would get super stressed out because it was super busy, and the restaurant business can be nightmarish. I would get my little half-hour break, and I would go and sit and breathe and look at the water, the creek,
Wow. Yeah.
and it would totally change my whole mindset.
Wow. You come back ready for the next half.
Yeah,
Nice.
right. Come back ready for a beer and a snort.
Those are the good old days.
Anyway, I'm really excited about this. We're going to be launching August 2nd.
Yep.
So if you're listening to this, that means it's well past August 2nd. So
I know.
just
So we
ignore
don't
what I
know
just
why
said.
we're mentioning it, but apparently.
Because I was born to promote. Like it's like a knee jerk reaction. And by the way, if you are hearing this and you know me in some capacity in a personal level and you do think I'm an asshole, please write to us.
At fuck you at outlaws,
No, the
mopedoutlaws.com.
hosts at Moped
The hose,
Outlaws.
the hose at mopedoutlaws.com. The pantyhose at mopedoutlaws.com.
Ooh.
The fishnet stockings at
Now we're
mopedoutlaws.com.
talking.
I'm sure Kathy would appreciate that.
Yeah, send
Yeah,
them along.
Kathy.
I think this is it. We've gone over time again.
All right. The recording has ended.
Exactly.